Hi, Alex Perry here from the Perry Centre, and thank you for watching today. If you're pregnant and you're struggling with morning sickness, it's something that can be a real challenge for a lot of our patients, and we often get women coming in quite early in pregnancy, and so it may be around sometimes as early as 6 or 7 weeks, but often it's around that 8, 9, 10 week mark where the morning sickness starts to really become an issue. Now, if you're watching this and you're struggling with morning sickness already, then you may already realise that morning sickness is not necessarily a good description for what's actually happening to you. In fact, for a lot of women, nausea can last all day, or sometimes it's in the evenings. And the real challenge with morning sickness is really being able to enjoy your pregnancy and also to have a healthy pregnancy ongoing. So I wanted to give you some of my top tips on how to start to relieve morning sickness, things that you can certainly try at home. And it's the same advice that I would give even when you come in to see me as a patient. But morning sickness is something that can be treated quite effectively with acupuncture. But what I wanted to do is run through my top tips, and most of these things are what you can do at home by way of diet, okay? And if you're struggling with morning sickness already, or nausea or vomiting, then the things that we're going to worry about getting enough nutrition in, we're going to worry about getting enough fluid in and keeping the fluid down so that you don't become dehydrated. And so those are the kind of the risks in terms of what could happen to your body with morning sickness. One of the best ways that I know to help to alleviate or to settle your morning sickness, and you'll hear me say this a lot, is to eat very small amounts very often. And why do I say that? Well, look, I think that there is almost certainly, in my experience, a relationship between what happens with blood sugar and nausea. And what seems to happen is that, you know, women go for, particularly if they're still working, and most women are still working at this stage of their pregnancy, is that they go for long stretches without eating or drinking. Okay, and what happens is the blood sugar starts to drop, the nausea seems to become worse, and once the nausea is there, it's very hard to get rid of. It's much easier to kind of manage it or get it to settle when it's already not so strong. So my very first tip that I would give you is to eat very small amounts very often, to try and keep that blood sugar up and down within as narrow an arc as possible. So what do I mean by eat very small amounts very often? Well, if you're struggling already to get food down, then you're probably doing this by your own judgment anyway, okay? Because you're struggling to eat very much. But what you want to do is make sure you eat small amounts very often. So a small amount might just be a nibble of a cracker, a bite of a piece of apple or some other fruit, or a very small amount of something that you can currently tolerate, okay? That's the first thing. In terms of very often, my suggestion is that and if you need to set your alarm on your phone or your watch, you do this, so that every half an hour to 40 minutes you are having a bite of something to make sure that your blood sugars are remaining relatively level. And what I've noticed over the years is that women that do this, it does in a lot of cases have a positive impact in terms of reducing the morning sickness. Okay, so it's definitely something worth trying, but it does mean you've got to be on the ball. You've got to have some food with you. You've got to keep it track on time, and you've got to be able to also grab a nibble of something as you go. It's certainly a pretty easy solution if it makes a difference, and something you can try straight away. So Alex's tip number 1 for morning sickness is to eat very small amounts very often. I hope that makes sense. My second tip, and this comes from a classic Chinese medicine recipe for nausea or for morning sickness, and it's potato soup. And I think when I speak to patients, particularly about morning sickness, and I ask what sort of foods do you feel comfortable with, potatoes is very often one of those foods. Now, hopefully it still is for you, because potatoes are a really great source of basic energy. Okay, so if you're struggling to get calories from other foods, then potatoes are a really simple way of getting some sugar and some energy into your body, and in a pretty bland, easy to digest kind of a way. So potato is your friend if you can possibly do it. Now, I certainly wouldn't be going for anything deep fried or fatty or oily. You really want the basic potato And there's lots of ways you can do that. One of the recipes that I really like is for a potato soup. And the way that I would do it, I would make it with, you know, some leek and maybe some fresh ginger, and you know, boil those potatoes down in much more water than you would if you were going to make like a mashed potato. So it's very watery. You want to make sure this soup is very thin, not thick and gluggy like trying to swallow mashed potato, right? So it's got to be thin. The fresh ginger will help. The leek will give it a little bit of flavour. Okay, and what I would do is I'd put that in a thermos. I'd make sure it's really thin, and I would keep that with you all day. And again, if you're eating very small amounts very often, a mouthful or two of the potato soup every half an hour to 40 minutes is going to be a good way of keeping not only your energy levels up, but also keeping some fluid in your body, because obviously the soup is predominantly water. Okay, so it's for a lot of women, so it's a really good way of getting both the energy and the fluid in. And those are the two things we worry about. We worry about getting enough calories to keep you up and going, and to keep enough fluid, to get enough fluid in and keep it down in order to make sure that you don't become dehydrated. So those are my two top tips. Eat very small amounts very often. Every half hour to 40 minutes, be nibbling on something, keep that blood sugar nice and even, and then potato soup, a little bit of fresh ginger, a little bit of leek. Make sure it's really thin so that you can drink it, and it's a great source of not only energy but also keeping your fluids up. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Try it and let me know if it works for you. Put a comment on this post. If it doesn't, put a comment on this post anyway. And look, what I'd like to offer is that if you'd like to come and get some treatment at the clinic for morning sickness, it's something that we really love to help with, because we see the impact that morning sickness has on the pregnant woman. And it's, you know, a time that should be, you know, a wonderful and joyous time is for some women really subdued by the fact that they just feel so rotten. And it's something that I really feel very positively that we can help with. So how do you go about seeking help? Well, it's really simple. I want you to contact me at the clinic. I'll put the number down here. That give the clinic a call. And what I want you to do is I want you to mention that you've seen this video, and when you do, the girls will give you a 20% discount off your first consultation, just to make it a little bit easier for you to come in. And often having that initial conversation and reinforcing some of these ideas, and then providing some treatment options, really goes a long way towards helping you to get over that hurdle of morning sickness. And for some women it goes at 12 weeks, and some women it goes on and on and on. What we want to do is make sure that whatever we try and curtail that morning sickness, bring it back to a shorter period as possible with as little impact as possible. So I hope that makes sense. So call the number below, mention that you've watched the morning sickness video, and get your 20% discount when you book in. And I really look forward to meeting you in the clinic soon. I'm Dr. Alex Perry, founder of the Perry Centre. And look, we love helping with pregnancy. And look, I hope we can see you in the clinic soon. Bye for now.